All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our SCORE spring webinar. Is everyone able to hear me okay? If I could just get someone confirming in the chat window, that would be great. Perfect, thank you so much. So we are very pleased today to have a diverse range of institutions and speakers today talking about getting faculty works into institutional repositories, from the practical to the policy. And to introduce myself, my name is Lana Wood, and I am a librarian at Cal State East Bay in Hayward, and I'm also the chair-elect for SCORE, which is a CARL interest group that stands for Scholarly Communication and Open Resources for Education. We're also joined today with April Gilbert and Emily Chan from San Jose State University, Jessea.Young from Loyola Marymount University, and Fortney Monica Westin from California Digital Library. This presentation is being recorded, so we will make this available through YouTube later. We'll be sending out a link on the SCORE listserv. And just some general housekeeping rules with Zoom. It looks like most of you have figured out how to turn off your cameras. So you can turn your video camera off by clicking on stop sharing underneath the camera icon, and you should be automatically muted as well. Okay, so before we begin, just a quick thing about SCORE updates. So we have upcoming elections that will be running for the next academic year, and I will be chair, but we are also looking for a chair-elect, which is someone who does programming and listserv maintenance, so helping to put together these webinars. And we'll also be looking for a new secretary who's in charge of meeting minutes and keeping the website and social media up to date. And the chair-elect will rotate into the chair position in the following year. So please keep an eye out for these. It's a really great way to get involved with CARL and with SCORE, and a pretty minimal time commitment. We do quarterly meetings and events, and we just meet virtually through Zoom. If you're interested in learning more or just getting more involved with SCORE, we're going to have our next business meeting on Thursday, April 27th from 3 to 4 p.m. through Zoom, and we'll be sending out that information through our listserv, which you can join by going to our CARL page or checking out our Facebook group for SCORE. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to turn it over to Emily and April from San Jose State University.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Whoops. We're very pleased to present to you today. Our presentation is entitled Getting Faculty Work into SJSU Scholar Work. My name is Emily Chan, and I'm the Scholarly Communications Librarian at San Jose State. And I'm April Gilbert, I'm the coordinator. The goal of our presentation—
Oh, Emily and April, I'm sorry to interrupt. We're having a little problem with the audio, and it looks like your screen is not sharing yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
Okay. Let's see. Do you guys see that now?
Yes, we can see it now. It looks great.
Okay, great. Sorry about that.
Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, so as we were saying, what we'd like to do is give you an idea about the CSU team.
We lost your audio again, guys. Can you move closer to the mic?
Okay.
Okay.
How about now?
Can you hear us?
We can hear you. I think because there's two of you, it's whoever is speaking needs to get closer to the mic when they're speaking.
Okay.
Okay, great.
So today we're hoping to provide some context for our workflow by discussing previous practices, what we're currently doing, and where we aim to go in the next couple of years. So first off, it's really important for you guys to know what platform we use. We use bpress's Digital Commons, and we use both components, the ScholarWorks, which is our full text IR, and the author profiling system, which is called Selected Works. On the left, you can see kind of a list of all of the centers, units, departments that use our campus IR, and it's really a repository for campus publications like the student newspaper, the Spartan Daily, newsletters from the provost's office, colleges and departments, and any theses that are associated with any of those departments. On the right-hand side, you'll see Selected Works, which is our author profiling system. And here, this is, it's important to note that the majority of the author profiles that are associated with SJSU are mediated by IR team. And if you're not familiar with Selected Works, it allows you to kind of complement faculty profile pages by listing things like research interests, degrees, courses, and of course, information about the scholarly profile. And there you can upload contents for those faculty works.
So now we're going to speak a little bit about the SJSU philosophy and workflow for obtaining faculty content. Our philosophy here has been that of marketing ourselves as providing a service to the faculty. And this was especially emphasized in the early days of our IR, when the goal was to seed the repository with faculty authored texts. And it continues today. This approach focuses more on highlighting the work of faculty members and also fostering a relationship with them, getting their buy-in into the IR, with the added benefit of adding full text items. So we request a CV and a headshot from the faculty members. We create the author profile. In Selected Works, we check for rights and permissions and self-archiving policies, and then we contact faculty members for pre or post prints as necessary. And then we ingest those into Selected Works, and as we obtain those full text items, we copy them from Selected Works to ScholarWorks.
So this gives you an idea of the distribution of full text items across the entire repository. So ScholarWorks includes those campus documents like the student newspaper, theses and dissertations, whereas Selected Works is the faculty profiling component. So over a third of the contents of the IR are coming from our Selected Works pages. And it's just important to note for ScholarWorks that over half of that 66% is due to the Spartan Daily, our student newspaper. So we have over 36,000 items, so we're over 12,000 of those items are coming in from our faculty profiles. So in terms of some of our past practices, what we've done is we've solicited faculty CVs, and when we were first starting and creating the IR and we had that Selected Works component, we made the big push to go through our liaisons to really seed the repository, and we've followed up with biannual requests for CVs to participate. Once we received the CVs, our team would look and check for copyright permissions, looking at publisher guidelines, what could we ingest pre-post prints, and we'd have to obtain those if it were those versions, or in cases of the publisher version, we could just get those from the database. We also had, our team also followed Selected Works participating faculty members on social media research sites like ResearchGate, academia.edu, and they set up alerts through those services, as well as Google Scholar for any alerts on new publications. And once there was an alert for that participating faculty member, then a follow-up email would be made to ask for pre-post-print as relevant. What we found, though, is that those social media research sites were just as inconsistent in terms of how well they reflected the author's works. So in terms of our current practices, we do continue with the biannual request for updated CVs. We continue to work with our liaison system here to solicit participation in scholar works. Some of the things that we've done now is we've tried to improve those solicitations, those requests for CVs. We've gone to MailChimp, and now we have a more visually appealing newsletter that goes out to all the faculty members on campus. We target certain advisors for student works, things of that nature. Within that newsletter, we've been able to embed a Join Now button, which you can see at the bottom of the slide. And it's as easy as that. Our faculty members, they receive the newsletter, they click on that icon, and they're taken to a page where they can input their name, their department, their title, and upload a CV and photo. We were able to implement a Google script, which works with Google Drive for deposit, so that when anyone uploaded their CV and photo, we were able to see in a shared Google Drive folder all of the materials that they uploaded. We'll soon be transitioning to Google Forms, and hoping to possibly get more information about what faculty members would like to receive in terms of services from ScholarWorks. But we do also continue with alerts via Google Scholar, Web of Science, and Scopus. Only now, those alerts are for all SJSU affiliates, not just those selected works participating faculty members.
So one of the issues we've highlighted here is that of ongoing discovery of newly published works by faculty. An additional and related issue is, how does one then add these items to the repository at the appropriate time? Many publishers allow posting of pre or post prints only after an embargo period has passed. So how can we efficiently keep track of these dates? After investigating several sites, I came across Airtable, which is a freemium productivity tool for creating databases. And we'll do a live, show you live. So this is an Airtable for faculty citations that I created just using the alerts and feed from Web of Science for citations from 2015 to present for all selected works participating faculty members at SJSU with SJSU affiliation. You'll see that we have faculty names, citation information, DOI, journal publisher info, as well as date published, embargo period, and the date the embargo ends, with policy from Sherpa Romeo or else the publisher's website, a link to that policy, and also tag the version that is allowed after a period has passed. So there are several views that you can set up in Airtable. I set up a main view, also an author sort, so we can have all the same works by the same person sorted. There's also a version sort, so if I wanted to sort by how many have publisher's version and just do those first and upload them. Finally, there's the calendar view. And this really helps with looking at embargo periods and when to upload the correct version. So here we have the calendar for April 2017, and you'll see on April 6th, it says Bryce G. Westlake is one of our selected works faculty members. And if you click on it, it gives you the actual record that it's referring to. So you have the citation information, the journal, the DOI, and the versions that are allowed, and the date the embargo period ended. And then there's the policy to double check. So from this, on April 6th, we can send an email to Bryce G. Westlake and let him know we have a post print to update in his profile, or when we're doing the setup for the CV or we're creating the metadata in selected work, we can ask for pre and post print and then upload that correct version when the date arrives.
So one of the things that we're doing now is exploring other options. As we have had each new round of solicitations for CVs, you know, we're getting fewer and fewer faculty members that are joining. That isn't to say that, you know, there's there's a huge dip, but when you compare it to when we first started to see the institutional repository, the people that were, the CVs that we're getting are, a lot of them are updates and new faculty members who are new to campus and are joining. So we're not making a lot of headway with our faculty members who have been here a while. So, you know, that has kind of begged the question of what other ways should we operate? So currently we have an opt-in strategy. So we're in discussion as to whether or not we should have more of an opt-out strategy with selected works and those author profiles and scholar works, our repository. But if we were to change to an opt-out system, that would constitute a change in our philosophy and our workflow. And so here's some potential next steps. If we do change from an opt-in to an opt-out philosophy and just think about getting the content into the IR, you can see kind of the application of Airtable if we were just to do a huge data dump of citations that are affiliated with SJSU and then just pick off the ones that are publisher versions and just ingesting them into the IR directly. If we just did that, it would mean that we would move away from the philosophy of seeding the repository from the faculty profiles. So that change in philosophy would mean that content no longer needs to originate from author profiles. If we do something like that, there could be the case that's made that faculty participation comes later after the value of the IR is communicated. Within Digital Commons, a dashboard can be created for an item, and when that dashboard is provided to an author, they can see things like usage statistics, the types of institutions that are coming into, that are downloading that item. You know, they have IP ranges, so they are institution specific. You can also see a readership map, so you can see the geographical location of your readers. So some of those pieces of information could be quite valuable in communicating the reach and just the overall value that an institute and exposure that an institutional repository can bring to a faculty member. So perhaps if we were to just get content into the IR and provide dashboards for authors, we could get author participation and buy-in from some of those faculty members who have been a little bit more resistant. Some other potential next steps is, you know, open citations. We're also interested in the initiative for open citations. That was just launched last week. And the possibility of using open citation data to kind of automate the discovery of new faculty content. And if you guys have any questions, you see our contact information, and we'd be happy to answer any questions, I think, towards the end of the webinar.
All right, thank you so much, Emily and April. And yeah, if you have questions, we'll be doing them at the end. You can type them into the chat window, and I'll keep track of those and we can put them to the presenters at the end. So next up, we have Jessea.Young.
Hello. Hello, so my name is Jessea.Young. I am the Digital Initiatives Librarian at LMU. I was formerly the Digital Library Program Assistant, and I'm experimenting with automating our workflows to get faculty publications into our IR. We are following the philosophy of just get the content into the IR. Here's a quick overview of LMU. LMU is a Jesuit university in Los Angeles. We have 9,000 students and 561 full-time faculty, and we have 18 research centers on campus. Our platform is also digital commons through Repress. Our institutional repository has about 8,000 full text papers and 2.8 million downloads. In September 2016, we were emailing faculty one at a time. If the faculty answered our email with a CV or publications list, we would research that citation. If we had a legal copy, we would ingest or we would email the professor and ask them for a legal copy. But this was an extremely time-consuming task. And if faculty actually respond, but most would ignore. If we were blessed to have them respond, they usually did not have the preprint or postprint saved. So after I realized this was not efficient for our department, we wanted to spend time ingesting faculty works differently. So in October of 2016, with the guidance of Shopal Relay, our former digital library program librarian, we remodeled our workflow. We wanted to automate our copyright permission research and use tools to find legal versions of scholarly articles to archive. So the first thing we wanted to do was attempt to bypass the publications list or CV. We download our citations from Web of Science or PubMed. We copy the citations into a Google spreadsheet that has a Sherpa Romeo script that was created by Stephen Flynn from the College of Worcester, which automates the discovering journal policies. So all you have to do is insert the ISN number into the script. And it reveals these 4 things. Does a journal permit uploading the publisher PDF to an IR? Does the publishers permit the author's final draft after peer review? And are there embargo restrictions? Does the embargo appear on the Sherpa Romeo record? And does this journal exclude authors from institutions that have an open access mandate? And I've pasted the code here. So in cases where Sherpa Romeo is wrong or there's no information about the journal, we still need to contact the publishers. But we were researching some journals over and over again because we had no centralized space for the people working in the IR to share this new information. So I created a journals database that contains ISNs or publisher emails. In action, this workflow looks like this. We paste the citation into a Google spreadsheet, which already has a script running. We copy the journal title into the next column or copy the metadata from Web of Science. And then using a VLOOKUP, this column pulls up the ISN or the email. And the third column, the script reads the ISN number in the third column, and it pulls up the Sherpa Romeo information we need. If we already have done research on that journal, it pulls up the email instead, or any notes that we have come up with. So after we identify the copyright permissions, we search our databases or attempt to find the preprints or postprints using Unpaywall or OA Button, which are Chrome apps that use different APIs to discover OA versions of articles. We are testing both apps side by side because I believe they were just made public this month. And we have found that 15% of the articles are found by both apps, but a majority of these articles cannot be found. 22% were found by OA Button, and then Unpaywall found about 11% by itself. We are still working with this data set, so we don't know the accurate number until the end of this month, but this is just a brief overview of that. And I highly recommend both are trying them. If we can't find anything, we email the professor and request the version we need, but usually our workflow ends right there because our faculty are really busy. And this workflow isn't without growing pains. There's one person right now who works with Digital Commons on a daily basis, and that's me. We have a student assistant, but she only works 6 hours. It is overwhelming when you realize a backlog of it's overwhelming to realize instead of a backlog of CVs, now you have a backlog of 3,800 citations. As you can imagine, every database we pull from display records very differently, and the metadata needs a huge cleanup, and that takes time. And that's what our student assistant does. The batch upload to Digital Commons is structured by department, so we have to shift through the data to figure out what department the article belongs to. This workflow has also brought to our attention our lack of policies. Our only policy right now is our author has to be a current full-time professor, but data sets include students, campus researchers, visiting professors, emeritus faculty, lecturers, and former faculty. And then, of course, we are using a scholarly database, and we have a great film school on campus, but the databases aren't going to reflect that kind of creative scholarship, and we need to create a workflow to incorporate them. And since we have a backlog of the 3,000 citations, that's going to take a hot moment to get to. So some of the next steps we are attempting is trying to improve this workflow is integrating new tools. So OpenRefine to handle metadata cleanup, Zotero to integrate Web of Science, Google Scholar, or any ResearchGate alerts that we get about our faculty to ingest new publications faster. We are also trying to improve our data sets. We receive one Science OA folder, which attempts to find open access versions of papers, much like OA button or paywall, but they send the list to us. And it's a really interesting product, but it has some problems. But we're trying to improve that. And does all this experimentation pay off? It has. We have added 875 full text works in 6 months. When I started, there were only 200 full faculty works. And this means our faculty collection has increased by 78%. And we have also added 5 departments. But overall, our growth is 27%. Our next steps also include to work with faculty more to preserve their data sets, create an ad campaign much like San Jose State University to advertise Digital Commons. We also need a campus-wide education to encourage those who are publishing about open access and copyright permissions, and the importance of saving their preprints and postprints. Most of the times when I go and visit a faculty member, they tell me as soon as they're done with their article, they toss their drafts. So that's not helpful for us, but we need to teach them the value of those drafts. This would also allow us to archive their works and increase LMU's global impact, since our scholarship will not all be behind a paywall. And as we grow and expand, I look forward to updating you, and thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Jessie. And we had one comment while you're presenting, which is a suggestion that LMU puts their separate journal spreadsheet into the Sherpa site. So I wanted to draw your attention to that in case you weren't seeing the chat window.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and so next up we have our final presenters, which is Katie and Monica from the California Digital Library.
Hello. Monica, you there?
I'm here. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
All right, so I will get us started. Let me share my screen. Let's see. And can everyone see my slideshow?
I can see it.
You can see it? Can others see it? It's on Google Slides.
We can see
On
it.
my Chrome.
Yeah.
Okay, terrific. Good morning. I'm Monica Westin. I'm the Publishing Outreach and Engagement Coordinator. I started here at the California Digital Library working on eScholarship in August of this year. And before that, I worked at bPress. So it's fun to see all the digital commons repositories as well. Katie Fortney is also with us. She's our Copyright Policy and Education Officer.
Hello.
So we do a lot. Oh, sorry.
I just said hello.
Katie
Keep
said
going.
hi.
Yeah.
We do a lot on eScholarship. We do a lot of publishing. We have conference proceedings. So we're really focusing today on faculty workflows, but it's one very small part of what we're up to, as you'll sort of get a sense of as we go through. Just a quick overview of the presentation. I do a lot of the day-to-day work on the repository, especially working on manual submissions, working with journal editors, working with administrators, which I'll explain. So I'll talk a little bit about eScholarship's organization, governance, staffing model. We're more centralized than a lot of repositories. And then I'll talk about the workflow for manual submissions. After that, I'll turn it over to Katie, who will talk about our open access policy and one solution to the problem that a number of people have raised today, which is sort of working with faculty who maybe don't have buy-in, or people who aren't sort of willing or able to do this manual process. And one of our solutions has been harvesting publication metadata through symplectic elements as part of the open access policy. So Katie will talk about that. Okay, I made this little graphic showing all of the campuses that we represent on eScholarship. So we are the repository for all 10 campuses of the University of California, plus Lawrence Berkeley Labs, plus California Agriculture, and we're located in the University of California Office of the President, which also has research units that publish on our system. We are not a bPress or a DSpace repository. We're locally built and hosted. So how do we do that? First of all, when we set about to create eScholarship, the CDL, the California Digital Library, already existed. There were already 10 campuses involved, so there was already sort of a structure, a consortial model in place that we could sort of tap to build the repository. Everyone is free to have their own repository if they want. Some of our law schools, for example, use hosted repositories, and we're run centrally without staffing from those campuses. So I thought it might be interesting very quickly to go over our staffing model. At the top, you see our director, Catherine Mitchell. She's the director of both Access and Publishing. Justin Gonder, our product manager on the left. Katie Fortney, our copyright officer on the right. And then we have our tech team is sort of the next row. We have our tech lead, Lisa Schiff, in the middle, and our two developers. And then I do a lot of outreach and communications and support our journals program, and I'm at the bottom. Each campus has one official campus contact. This is the touch person on campus for eScholarship questions. And there are also a number of departmental and unit administrators, which I'll talk about in a moment. But I want to go ahead and jump into what it looks like when someone manually submits onto our system. Anyone affiliated with the University of California can submit content. If it is a previously published work, it skips this guideline and goes directly into sort of a post-print bucket, which I can show later if there's interest. But in general, authors will submit content to the submission system, which we call SUBI, or for journals OJS, which I won't talk about today. Then content is reviewed. I think it's a really important point that we at the CDL do not review any of the content. It's reviewed by that primary campus contact or the administrator for that unit or series on campus. And then when the administrator accepts, the content is published. From there, it goes through an internal processing system, which I can't really speak to the technicalities of it, but essentially we do OCR, we do indexing in XDF, we produce a PDF cover page, extract the text for downstream. And then we display it on the front end of eScholarship. On the back end, we preserve it in the Merit Preservation Repository, and then we sort of push it down to indexes and to search engines. So what happens when an author actually goes into our system to submit a paper? This is just a typical department. This is the Department of Plant Pathology at Davis, and our author will click the button to submit the paper to this series. If the unit doesn't exist yet, I think this is actually an interesting point, so I'll back up. We did not and do not, when we build out a new unit or a new campus, build out a lot of series. We don't even build out a department site. So we don't have any empty structures, and we don't build anything before there's interest in using the repository. So administrators for units and series are sort of created on a case-by-case basis. Oftentimes what happens is that researchers and faculty are the one pushing these forward. So I'll get an email from, say, a professor at the Department of Plant Pathology saying, I'd like to share work from a recent conference, or I'd like to share this paper series. And then that faculty member and I work together to select an administrator for the series. You can see here on the right, the Get Started Now. We have some standard agreements that we set up, and then we sort of work with a liaison to that department. On the left, you just see the list with a little bit of text that says, are you looking for a unit that's not listed? Learn how to add yours. So this is quite organic. It saves us from building a lot of empty structures. And oftentimes the person who requested the unit will be the person to act as the administrator for that unit. When you go into the submission form, this is what it looks like. So a lot of this came out in the last 2 or 3 years. We have a drag and drop for PDF, a place to add a lot of metadata. On the right, you can see this blue box that pops out. This has instructions for all of the metadata that our faculty are adding. At that point, you can also see we have a data availability statement. We offer the opportunity to do an embargo, specify licensing, and once they accept the policies, they can submit it. And as I showed you in the previous workflow, that sort of sits in a queue waiting for an administrator to approve it. So who uses our manual submission system? We do have challenges with some of the senior faculty, especially Senate faculty, using this manual submission. That's something that's kind of been a running theme so far. But we do have a lot of people using manual deposit. A lot of postdoctoral scholars, non-Senate faculty, and adjunct faculty, grad students, department managers, librarians. We have delegates in many cases acting on behalf of faculty in certain departments to upload work. And now I'm going to turn it over to Katie, who will talk about some bigger picture and more automated services. So Katie, do you want me to stop screen sharing so you can take over?
Yeah, do that.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if all is going well, you should see the same slideshow, but on my computer.
Yes.
Great. So what happened here at UC is in 2013, we were chugging along doing our jobs with the repository, and we got a little bit of a landscape shift. Our faculty passed a system-wide open access policy across all 10 campuses. It covers thousands of faculty and directs them to deposit their author's final versions with us. But the final paragraph of that policy concludes that the faculty calls on the academic senate and the university to develop mechanisms to render implementation and compliance with the policy as convenient for the faculty as possible. Of course, the faculty want convenience. So we were able to get some funding to get symplectic elements. With this choice of this vendor was the result of a competitive RFP process. And elements, what it does is it takes author names from a campus HR feed. It searches databases like Scopus and Web of Science for our faculty's articles. It emails them with a message that is designed and customized by the folks in the library on their campus. And lets them know, hey, we found new articles that we think are yours. Please come into the system. Let us know if they're really yours, and then give us a copy. It will email them every 2 weeks if they're publishing new articles every 2 weeks, but no more often than that. And most folks get emails a lot less often than that. So taking a lot of that work and initiative out of the library and out of the faculty and automating it has resulted in a huge increase in deposits for us. So these numbers will also include link-only deposits, which are allowed under our policy. If somebody's published somewhere like PLOS, or if they're already in PubMed Central, they can just give us a link, and we count that as a deposit. But most of these are PDF and Word files that folks have updated. So we didn't flip the switch on the whole system at once. It was one campus at a time, and you can see the slope starting to pick up when the first campus got elements, and then all the way up to now we've got all 10 campuses up and running since January, February 2016. We also have, since 2015, an open access policy covering all staff, but only Senate faculty are in the system right now because the resources that it would take to expand it to everybody else. So the folks covered by the newer policy, so our postdocs and our adjunct faculty and all those people, grad student researchers, when they're employed by the university, they're still using the manual deposit system that Monica showed, which also got a huge facelift with the open access policy. That used to be like a 5 or 6 screen process, and now it's that single screen with the drag and drop. It's a lot prettier, and people seem to enjoy interacting with it a lot more. So you'll notice that this line does start to pick up. I'm pointing at my screen as if you can see me. This line does start to pick up before that first campus came online, and I know not all of you are going to get elements, so I just wanted to shout out some props to UC Irvine. So you can see that on this graph, way back in 2014, 2015, as we're rolling out the system, they had some huge bumps in deposited articles before elements was going, and that is largely a result of librarian outreach on those campuses. So they in particular were doing uploadathons, either working with a particular department or doing something in the library during OA week, where they would tell folks, you know, bring your CD, bring a thumb drive, bring whatever, and we'll walk through that process the first time. Because after that, you're gonna be on your own, and the UC system is too huge for us to do it for folks. But they got people to show up, and they did a bunch of stuff, and they've continued to do things working with particular departments, and a lot of our campuses actually, they've got proxies. People can use elements. They can pick a department, a staff person, or just somebody in the department who can serve as a proxy for those folks and get their things uploaded. So that's a lot of stuff. That was, we're up to something like 38,000 faculty deposited postprints now. That has become, since getting elements, our biggest bucket. Our department and unit series and our journals used to be creating a lot more stuff because people are so actively engaged in those programs. But now most of what we got is postprints, and most of what we've got is unmediated. Anybody submitting previously published work, a postprint thing, through Elements or through the manual deposit system that Monica showed, as long as they say, you know, this is a thing that was published elsewhere, nobody looks at it. Department Uni Series, just the department administrator looks at it. We never look at it, and nobody in any of the libraries is looking at postprints. And that is, 38,000-ish things now. And we have gotten takedown notices from 2 publishers ever under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, covering 23 articles. So we've taken down 23 articles out of 130,000 publications. So if any of you are considering allowing unmediated deposit in your repository from your faculty, that's my pet cause. I love to encourage folks to do that, because publishers rarely send takedown notices, and sometimes you can get a lot better faculty engagement. So shoot me an email if that's something you want to hear more about. And that is what we've got. Ready for questions, I think.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. We covered a lot in the last 45 minutes. So now I'd like to open it up to questions. You should see in your menu a chat function if you haven't opened it already. So please go ahead and type your questions into the chat box. And they can be for any of the 3 institutions who are present here. Okay, nothing is jumping in right now. Okay, Katie, please repeat unmediated.
Unmediated. Oh, right. So a lot of folks, the way your repository works is you in the libraries are the ones doing the uploading. And we used to have a system where faculty could submit, but somebody sitting in our offices or sitting on a campus had to approve everything, just to kind of worry about that copyright step. And now we don't. We are not, so that's what I mean by unmediated. We're not doing that approving step. We're not worrying about copyright. There's a checkbox that points out to them that copyright is a thing, and they should make sure that they've done their research. And under the open access policy, that covers a lot of that. But for older stuff, we point them to Sherpa Romeo and just trust them to do what's right.
Wonderful, thank you. And we have another question, which is, does anyone else have a problem with institutional name disambiguation? That could, any of the presenters could answer that one.
I will, I guess, attempt. I can see where you would have that problem, Charlotte, because you're at University of San Francisco, so there's USF, there's University of South Florida, there's San Francisco State, UCSF. San Jose State, we don't have that problem, and we haven't had that problem with the feeds that we have. So I cannot commiserate, but I do empathize.
At LMU, we haven't had that problem too much with our One Science data sets. We've had maybe 5 citations that weren't from LMU. They were from, you know, a different Loyola school in like Chicago or Virginia, but that was 5 out of 500. So not really.
And we don't do searching, so Elements sometimes is probably over-inclusive, and then faculty using that system can go in and alter their search settings, but not a thing that we have to handle. I'm seeing a question from Charlotte in the chat. Can I take that one?
Yes,
Lana?
please do.
Okay. Messy metadata, yeah. So the drag and drop helps that. Oh, no, sorry, not the drag and drop. We have a DOI option. So if somebody's got a DOI, they can plug that in and everything gets auto-filled. Same with a PubMed central number. But honestly, we just kind of don't worry about it. You know, we have fields for them to paste in their journal title and their article title, and we're full text searchable. And so we just kind of hope that Google sorts it out. And with 130,000 publications in there, stuff is going to be messy, but it gets used. I think that's kind of our general philosophy.
All right, we have a question for everyone, and it is, what language do you use to make faculty understand what a postprint is? I've tried multiple ways to explain it and use different terminology, accepted manuscript, etc., but faculty still often send me the publisher's version no matter how clearly I think I explain it.
Yeah, that's a tough one, especially having to write that language for an automated system. And I think what we've said in our FAQs and where we have space is the version after peer review, but before the publisher formats it to look like the journal, which is not useful in every discipline because some people are using LaTeX templates and they look almost exactly the same. So if people ask, I try to tell them just the version that doesn't look pretty but has kind of the same text, and please don't send me something with the publisher copyright notice on it. But I know that people are putting publisher versions in there because they don't understand that language, and that will happen, and we just wait for someone to complain. American Psychological Association complained, and we took 15 articles down, and everything was fine.
It's similar to what we have. We just have to keep, I guess, going back and forth with the conversation. Sometimes it's, well, what is a postprint? So sometimes I try and use the language that they may be familiar with when they're working with the publisher. So much so maybe accepted manuscript. And then, like Katie said, the non-pretty version. So also include, okay, it shouldn't have page numbers on it for the journal, the actual issue. Again, there shouldn't be the copyright notice, but sometimes there is the back and forth, so.
At LMU, we don't have the back and forth. Shilpa can maybe correct me, I know she's here. But I have no experience, I had no experience with anybody sending me the correct manuscript yet.
Okay, and then, so Jesse or Emily or April, we have another question, which is, alongside the centralized approach of the UC, have the rest of you had central endorsement support to much degree, either through the provost, the academic senate, or another institutional body in terms of open access policy?
At San Jose State, we haven't like
Oh, Emily, is that Emily?
sorry, can you hear me?
Okay, now we can hear you.
Oh, great. Sorry. I was leaning back in my chair. So at San Jose State, you know, we have the provost who is a user of selected works, and he talks about the neat like usage statistics that he receives on a quarterly basis from BPress's Digital Commons. And, you know, we're in talks with the Research Foundation and the Office of Research to try to roll out greater support, greater integration of the repository in the research cycle, particularly given like open data mandates. So we're hoping to make some headway there. But in terms of like a official Senate endorsement, we don't have anything like that. There was a few years back a sense of Senate resolution where they said open access was a good idea to investigate. And particularly for retention, tenure, and promotion ideas, but and there was a task force that looked into that matter, but since then there hasn't been any resolution to really support open access and to integrate open access within RTP, which I think is absolutely critical in order to get greater faculty buy-in.
At LSU, we don't have any official background or support. We have like allies with certain faculty that have really helped us build our repository. But it's honestly for us a job that a librarian would have to take on, solely focusing on this, but we don't have that infrastructure yet.
Okay, great. And that question actually also had another side question, which has to do with the institutional funding. So if anyone wants to share what sort of institutional funding there is for the IR at their campus.
In terms of funding from the library, it's, you know, it's the librarian who is assigned to like the repository, and April as the institutional repository coordinator. Our unit has about like 30 some hours a week for student assistant help, and they assist us by going through the CVs, checking for copyright, and looking for publisher guidelines for those specific citations. Outside of that, we aren't supporting like APCs or anything like that. That's something we hope we could do in the future, but at this point, the commitment from the university library is staffing.
At LMU, what the IR was really writing on was the law schools. We have a lot of law journals in our institutional repository that is really keeping digital commons at our campus alive. And we just started adding faculty work like really hardcore this last fall. So we're getting there.
All right, and a question for Katie or Monica. Are the UCs doing any retro journal article archiving for articles published before the 2013 OA policy was passed?
Yeah, I'm guessing that question is specific to Elements, because with our general postprints, anybody can upload anything whenever. That was a tough discussion to have when we got that contract started. Because on the one hand, you don't want to confuse people about what's covered by the policy, but on the other hand, it's weird for people to, see what's supposed to be listed in their publication. It cuts off at 2013. So we decided to have it show everything. And then when they claim an item and they're taken to the deposit screen, they get different advice. So that's a thing that you can set up in Elements, is if it is before a certain date, they get Sherpa Romeo advice, and if it's after a certain date, they're told it's covered by the OA policy if X, Y, and Z. They were Senate faculty when they wrote it. They didn't sign a publication agreement before the date of the policy, that kind of thing. But they can use Elements to upload anything and everything, including if they own the rights in monographs that they've written, or if they want to put up data sets, whatever, that's the channel they use.
Thank you. And I think this will be our last question. Does anyone know of any open access policies in California outside of the UC system? So
Caltech has one.
Okay, great.
I was thinking one or two of the CSUs did, but now I can't remember.
Okay, well, if anyone knows of any others, you can also, type it into the group chat as well.
Okay.
All right, well, we are almost at noon. So I just want to say thank you so much to all of the presenters. It's been a great webinar. And we will be sending out the link to the recorded version of this webinar to the SCORE listserv. So if you are not on that yet, please visit our SCORE page through the Carl website, and you can sign up for our listserv. So thank you again, and I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks, bye everybody.
Thanks for facilitating and setting all this up, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.